You're listening to Boobies and Noobies, brought to you by the Frolic Podcast Network. Welcome to Boobies and Noobies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today's episode marks the third installment of our Slick Summer Nights series. Things are definitely heating up this July. As a reminder, join us all month long for an epic showdown of smexiness as contestants share their favorite steamy sexcerpts for a non-biased-ish judge. Be sure to follow Boobies and Noobies on social media at Boobies Podcast, as we will be sharing the Slick Summer Nights results throughout the month of July. And you, the listeners, can help determine the ultimate champion, the smexy scene of them all, by voting for your favorites on the Boobies and Noobies Instagram. Now, as per usual, you can always catch up on past episodes of Boobies and Noobies on your favorite podcatcher or on boobiesandnoobies.com. If you're a fan of the show and you've got a few minutes to spare, you might consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And last but not least, if you're in the mood to show this indie podcaster a little extra love, please consider joining our Patreon. We've got monthly patron-only events, early sneak peeks at what we're reading next, and so much more. And you gain instant access to it all for as little as $1 per month. You will find links to all of the above in today's show notes, but for now, it's time to meet today's competitors. Today's panel automatically receives an A+ for the fact that all of their names start with A. Starting with author of naughty books with witches and magic, and of course the kissing, 3 of my favorite things, it's Ammy Belle. Welcome, Ammy.
Hello.
Hello.
Glad to be here. Sorry. First time podcast person.
It's okay. I'm glad. I know you mentioned that this is your first podcast, and I'm happy to have you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And facing off against Ammy today is Amy, founder and editor of Words and Kisses, a UK-based online bookshop. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I know this isn't your first podcast because you've been on Boobies and Noobies before.
I have, yes.
So welcome back.
Thank you.
Ladies, before you tell us a little bit more about yourselves and the books you've selected for today's showdown, please let me introduce today's judge. She's a cat lover, pharmacist, and author of the Compass series. It's Aria Wyatt. Welcome.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Also, brilliant combination between cats, pharmacy, and writing romance. Love it.
Yes. Pharmacy kind of sucks my soul out and writing puts it back. So sort of how I stay balanced.
I mean, yeah, whatever works, right? Got to find that creative outlet somewhere.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I'm so excited to have all of you here with me, although I feel like it goes without saying that it's going to be a miracle if we get through the episode without me mixing up Amy and Ammy and Aria at one point or another, but I'm going to do my best. And I'd love to start with just asking each of you to tell us a little bit about you and your relationship with the romance genre. And how about we start with Amy?
Sure. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I have always been a big reader in general, but didn't find romance until sort of after uni. I feel like this is the case for a lot of people who did English at university. You have to read all the classics and you're like, oh, I hate reading now. I loved it as a kid. Eventually stumbled back across romance. I was like, oh yeah, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun. It was my first book was Sarah MacLean, and he's going down on her within the first 2 chapters. I was like, oh, this is allowed in a book. And basically never looked back. And then a couple of years after that, was getting very jealous of all the nice subscription boxes and things and romance bookshops that you have in the States, and decided to start my own here in the UK. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yes, there you go. Well, and I happen to love your I happen to love your book box, which, you know, even if you're in the States, you can get shipped to you from Words and Kisses, because there's always something delicious inside along with the books. And I'm a sucker for, you know, yummy eats and treats.
As am I.
Love it. Okay, well, how about over to Ammy now? From Amy to Ammy.
I started reading romance when I plucked them off of the shelves of my mother's bookshelves, and like, so I think I started with Kathleen Woodwis, which in retrospect maybe a 10-year-old shouldn't read, but I was very precocious. It was that or Stephen King, so it was either, I waffle between horror and romance basically on the regular. So
Me
I
too.
found my natural home in paranormals, and like I read historicals, I read contemporary, less contemporary, but my favorite home is paranormal romances. And I wrote a book. It is not out. I am still only the writer, not like a real author yet, but like I wrote the book. One day when I have
define real author, please. You wrote
I
a
was just
book.
going to interject and say you are a real author.
This is my definition.
Absolutely.
Has the guts to show people. There you go.
Okay,
But yeah,
fine.
so hopefully I'll get the confidence to do that soon. But it's about witches and kissing, and they're all cat lovers because they're witches, so that's yay. But yeah, and now I'm very interested in the book box subscription from Words and Kisses because I too like yummy things.
Right?
And that's
The perfect combination. Also, I mean, whether you ever publish your book or not, you've got this set of eyes over here who will be happy to read, because I love all things witchy and romance. Like, witches have always had a special place in my heart ever since I saw Hocus Pocus.
yes.
Always.
Kindred spirit.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I live in Portland, which is like, didn't realize when I moved here, very witchy town. Like, I mean, there is a crystal shop on every corner.
Oh, and now I have to go to Portland.
There you go. Got to do the tour. Like, pick up your book box in the UK, hit up Portland, grab some crystals. We can go visit Aria, have some apple cider donuts in the fall.
Yes. Yes.
That's right.
Oh, yes. New England.
Sounds an absolute dream. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's do it all together. Yes.
I'm here for it. Well, over to you, Aria, then. I mean, I know I talked about donuts, which no one's going to understand because this was us talking before recording, but feel free to go ahead and mention the donuts or not.
I think I'm an upstate New Yorker, and I always say upstate because people hear New York and they think New York City. But part of being an upstate person is the fall is absolutely gorgeous with apple cider donuts, the foliage. It's everything. It's my favorite. And as far as I've always loved to read, I started reading romance probably a few years after college because I had absolutely no time to read in pharmacy school. Like, I didn't have time to breathe. And I started writing after my second child was born because I needed something that was for me and something to kind of refill the well, because I was feeling a little bit drained and lost. And I released my first book last year, and so far it's going okay. I'm enjoying it a lot. It makes me happy.
Yay! I love it. See, I hope, Ammy, I hope you're hearing this, and this is like a nice encouragement for you to decide to publish your witchy romance.
Do it.
I love it. I can speak for myself as somebody who also, wants to publish my own work or see my work out there too, that it's always good to hear from authors about their own experiences. So yay, I'm so excited to have you both here, and Amy, of course. I mean, that goes without saying, but
I think when the first time you hold your paperback in your hands, it's like a beautiful moment. I wouldn't say it's like holding your child for the first time, but pretty close.
I also have no children, so for me that might be like, ooh, this is as close as it gets to holding a child. Yeah, like I said, always great to hear from new authors, from authors who have been publishing for years. Like, everybody's experience is so unique, which is what I'm always interested in hearing about from them. So yay, excited to have the three of you here. And I think the real question now is, in your opinion, what makes for a good, memorable, steamy scene in a romance novel? And I know we all have our own ways to define those words. So I'd love to hear just from you, what makes for one of those memorable, steamy scenes? And we'll start with Aria this time.
I think for me, I like when they're creative, when you can see some emotion and connection there. I also like dirty talkers. Not going to lie, love it. I honestly, the steamier, the better. Like, bring it on. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. Fair enough. How about you, Ammy? What do you think?
I'm an eye contact person. I also like sort of steam scenes that are like very much plot related, like, oh, I didn't trust you, but now this shows that I trust you, kind of like those kind of like elements where it's like more than just sex. It's more like it's deeper, but also like to go to like the steamier the better. I always feel like, oh, there must be a limit, and then I read something else and I'm like, well, there goes that limit. So I read the next one. This is just this is what I have found. Monster erotica, anybody. So yeah.
Oh, I know. I mean, I think that one took us all by surprise for sure.
I'm still like, really?
In a good way.
Yeah, no. I'm very surprised by myself.
Yeah. Learning so much about myself every time I pick up a new book, for sure. Okay. Well, Amy, how about you?
Yeah, I think my answer is very similar. I was going to say, like, I think the more romance you read, your like level gets higher because you've kind of read it all. So there is definitely an element of like when a book does something new that you're like, oh, okay, I've not seen that before, or in that specific context. That's always that's kind of what sticks in my mind. The ones that you sort of come back to or remember the best. But also agreed, steamy the better. Hence why we are all here. And I tried to pick a very steamy scene, and then Ammy, you may have trumped me. So.
It's been interesting, I will say, just in the first two episodes that we've recorded, because I think I tried to do my best to sort of match up scenes with each other that at least had like a similar tone, or like, were maybe around the same length. But I've been surprised even by some of the scenes that have been chosen in general, along with the ones that have been selected as the winners. But again, it just goes to show you like how subjective it is, that what somebody finds to be the sexiest, most erotic act, might not be as much for somebody else. And so that's why I've really been enjoying this so far. And I love hearing from everybody and what they find sexy to them. And honestly, what we find sexy in real life is always not what we find sexy in our books, and vice versa. So
100%.
Well, contestants, I think this is the perfect time for you to go ahead and introduce the books that you'll be reading from today. So let's go ahead with the name, title, author, and a brief synopsis for the book, just to set it up for anybody who hasn't read it yet, who will hopefully go out and buy it from Words and Kisses bookshop afterwards. Amy, how about you start for us?
Sure. So my excerpt is from Priceless by Miranda Silver, which a few people might recognize from going viral on TikTok last year, which is how I picked it up. And it's hard to summarize. It's not plot heavy, shall we say? But essentially, our main character Christina is a bit of a hot mess. She's not having a great time, and she needs money. So she ends up in a kind of exclusive sexual relationship with a guy called Patrick, who's quite cold, quite closed off, for money, to indulge his humiliation kink, and which turns out to be also her humiliation kink, him humiliating her specifically, and as a result they kind of work through both their issues.
Okay.
This scene is the first time that they get together, so
oh, good. Okay. Well, before you read it, let's hear what you're going to be going up against. So, Ammy, over to you.
I chose an excerpt from Neon Gods by Katee Robert, and it's, I think, the quickest way to sort of get at the heart of it is it's a Persephone and Hades retelling with names intact, one Persephone, one Hades. And in this case, it's set in Olympus City, I think it's called, and then there's a lower city. So there's an upper city and a lower city, and Hades is the ruler of the lower city, but everyone in Olympus, the higher city, thinks that he is like basically a myth because like the last Hades died a while ago and they've never heard anything else from him. So like his statue is covered by a cloth and it's all very mysterious. And then Persephone is put into a situation where she essentially has to run for her life. And whose arms does she run into but Hades? Accidentally, but a little bit on purpose. And and like I don't know how much I can spoil about this, but like obviously they get together. But
Yeah. Enough said,
like,
for sure.
oh no, and the only thing is that she can't go back to the higher city because she'll be in danger, so they have to think of a way to get her to stay, and they just choose this sort of like fake relationship thing, but they got to sell it, and so they have to sell it like publicly. And that's where my excerpt comes in.
And they sell it privately too. Ooh. I love it. Well, and as I mentioned, we try to keep things as unbiased as possible. So Aria, as our judge for today, can you confirm that you have not read either of these books?
I have not read either book.
Delightful. Well, hopefully this will inspire you to pick up copies of each, and everybody listening as well. So without further ado, let this showdown begin. And Ammy, the floor is yours.
It starts mid-scene. Like literally there's a paragraph, so here we go. Take what's yours, Hades. I want you to. You aren't a princess. You're a fucking siren. He yanks me forward and then he's inside of me. I can barely breathe as he drags me down his cock, filling me almost uncomfortably full. Oh, gods. They have nothing to do with it. He looks furious and turned on, and yet he's still nowhere near as rough as I suddenly need him to be. This is what you wanted, little siren. My cock inside of you. Just like that, he releases me and drapes his arms over the chair, looking every inch the indulgent king. Ride me, Persephone. Use me to make yourself come. Shock stills me. Having sex in front of a room full of people is one thing when he's right there with me, but he's forcibly putting distance between us, even if he hasn't moved an inch. Suddenly, I'm the one on display, rather than us being on display. I like it. Not a single person can watch this scene and think that I'm anything but an enthusiastic participant. Hades has to know that, has to know how much this will matter. Fucking him here like this is as good as screaming to all of Olympus that I truly am his. I slide my hands up his chest, wishing I was feeling skin instead of his shirt. Another time. And there will be another time. I grip his shoulders and begin to move. No matter how frantic my pulse beats through me, I want this to last. Because it's a show, yes, but more importantly, because it's our first time. I don't want this to end too soon. I ride him slowly, working myself up and down his cock, winding my pleasure higher and higher. It's not enough, and yet it is too much at the same time. More. I need more. Endlessly more. As much as I want to close the distance and kiss Hades again, the way he's watching me is too intoxicating. His gaze travels over my body in a sweep I can almost feel against my skin, drinking in the sight of me fucking him, even as his hands clench the arms of the chair. He might have a cold mask in place, but he's fighting not to touch me. I hold his gaze and lean back, bracing my hands on his thighs and arching my back, putting my breasts on display. A distant part of me is aware that I'm putting on a show for more than him right now, but he's the only one I care about. See something you like? A mouthy brat.
Love. Very fun.
Yep.
Very fun. I mean personally, I haven't read Katee Robert's latest release in this series, but I have read the first two, and yeah, I mean if you've read any Katee Roberts, you know that Katee knows how to write a steamy scene, that's for sure. But yeah. I am excited to hear Amy's selection as well, because I've also read Miranda Silver and she can write a steamy scene. So this is a very difficult matchup. I don't envy you at all, Aria. So Amy, over to you. Let's hear our next scene.
Sure. So similarly, starting mid-scene, his cock, huge and slippery, thrust inside me over and over, fucking me all the way through. I was on my hands and knees, kneeling, begging, pleading with him to stop. Oh, stop, never stop, please. I need more, give me more. Oh God, just let me come already. And through it all, he kept going, steadily, mercilessly, savagely, whispering a constant stream of words about how tight I was, how hot, how soft, how wet, how perfect. He knew I was the right girl for this. He knew I was scared, and I was going to take everything he gave me and beg for more. You're so big, I babbled. I've never... Oh, Jesus. Fire flared through my cunt and thighs. What was happening? My clit. He was touching my clit. softly, gently, teasing the exposed tip while I flooded his thick cock with juices. This is what it feels like to be mine. His breath was cool in my ear. I shuddered from head to toe, squeezing his cock painfully hard as he inexorably sank into my cunt. This is what it feels like to be my little slut. Who do you think you are? I gasped. I'm everything you're afraid to want, he whispered, and everything you need. You're a bastard. I was sobbing now, as hard as I had this afternoon. So good. Let it out, baby. Tears streamed down my cheeks with each deep thrust. His cock stretched me open impossibly wide. Fingers stroked me, playing around my swollen clit, making me quiver with need. Oh God, I hate you, Patrick. No, you don't, he hissed. You just wish you hated me. You can't fake anything here, Christina. You can only beg and plead while I do whatever I want with you. It's so embarrassing, isn't it? How you're creaming and shaking and crying while you're fucked by someone you want to hate until we come together like two intimate lovers. I shrieked, tightening around him in one long wave. Everything came down to my centre, him inside me. My cunt contracted in an agony of need and pleasure, ecstasy and despair. Patrick stayed immobile, a statue behind me as I arched toward him. Nothing moved except my pussy, clutching his length and his fingers, forcing ripples of sharp pleasure through my body. More pleasure and more until I pleaded for mercy. Then everything blurred. I moaned when his touch left my clit. A heavy hand pushed my face into the mattress. He pulled his hips back and slammed his cock into me. The air left my body. Had I thought Patrick was brutal before? His thrusts were ferocious, primal, but frighteningly controlled. He was huge. I was close to coming again. Jesus, it felt incredible in the worst, best kind of way. He was silent. We both were. The only sounds were his intent breaths and mine, pushed out with each thrust into my core. Patrick, my voice cracked. It's so much. He groaned. The raw lust in that sound shocked me. His cock, enormous, jerked to my tight embrace. His massive hands began to roam over my body, exploring every place the dollar bills had touched. They spread sparks as he squeezed my hips, felt my stomach, slapped my thighs with stings that left me panting. When he fondled my breast with a warm palm, I moaned loudly. You like that? He pinched my nipple. I moaned again. Say it. Tell me. I like it, I breathed, the bed bouncing under us as he thrust. I was soaking wet, and he just didn't stop, and he was crushing my nipple in his fingers. My pussy spasmed around his thick cock hard because suddenly he was grazing my clit and I was too sensitive to take it. I was exposed and raw, and he was rubbing faster and faster. I peeked again, helplessly. Patrick, please.
It seems like it all comes down to mouthy brat versus my little slut between these two scenes. That's how I will remember them for the rest of time, is the my little slut and my mouthy brat readings. So excellent work, ladies. And Aria, this is really a tough job for you. So what do you like about each of these scenes?
You know, first of all, I think I ovulated just now. I liked them both a lot. I think the intensity was really the desperation. You could kind of feel that from both of them. This is going to be a really hard decision.
Both on the kinkier side too. I feel like they're both exploring some kink in some fashion. So with the Miranda Silver one, obviously the humiliation kink, and then with Neon Gods, the whole aspect of voyeurism. Yeah, yes. There's a lot of juicy things about each of the. I hope you pick up each of these books after listening to their readings.
I will be. I mean, I really, like you said, the exhibitionist kind of voyeurism on the Katee Robert book, and then just almost like the hate sex in Miranda Silver's. I am very torn. Yeah.
Well, the time has come, and now no matter how torn you are, you must make a decision. And we all know that we're all winners here. Come on. But who is going to be the winner of this Slick Summer Night Showdown?
Well, it's going to have to be Amy.
Okay. Humiliation over exhibitionism.
For that whole intense hate sex thing. I don't know. Never done it, but okay.
One of those things that we were talking about earlier, probably wouldn't be as good in real life as it is on the page, right?
I'd probably punched my husband in the face if he ever said that, but it's hard to read.
Yeah. Well, and those, I think this might be my favorite matchup thus far, just because I do
It was tough.
That was a really tough one. I honestly don't know which one I would have chosen between the two. Like, because I haven't read that Miranda Silver book, and now I'm like, ooh, dang, I need to go grab a copy. And then at the same time, I've read Neon Gods and the Electric Idol, the book that followed, and absolutely adore them. I love those are two of the books that I recommend to, I won't say everybody, like if they're looking for their first romance novel, but I've recommended it to several friends who read romance who have been like, Kelly, I just spent the entire night reading these books. And there's a special place in my heart for those books as well. So that's a tough matchup. Well done, all of you. Yes, rounds of applause all around.
This is awesome. I just get to sit here and have you all talk dirty to me. I mean, bring it.
We could all be so lucky to experience that on a regular basis. It would just
exactly
fantastic. But well, this has been delightful, ladies. Where can everybody find, follow, read your work, buy your books, etc.? And whoever wants to start, just go ahead and jump in and promo yourself away.
We're all going to be very polite about it. Yeah, I mean, you can find everything for Words and Kisses at wordsandkisses.com. It's as simple as that.
All of my books are available on Amazon. I'm currently in Kindle Unlimited, or you can go to ariawyatt.com and everything is there as well.
I'm on Instagram, author Ammy Belle, AMMYBELLE. And that's about where you can find me. I think I'm on Twitter, but I haven't really updated Twitter, so
I forget that I have Twitter. I never.
Okay, it's often best to avoid Twitter as a general rule, I think.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those ones where I go to immediately when I'm like, I need the tea spilt. Like, I'm like, ooh, yes, something's happening. Like, I need to know what it is. You know who's never going to let me down in giving me the information? Yep. Twitter.
Agreed. Yeah,
definitely.
But keeping that in mind, you know, heed the warning. Beware of what can happen and go down on Twitter is what you have to be prepared going in.
You do.
Yep.
This was delightful. And as a reminder for everybody listening, Ammy shared Neon Gods by Katee Robert. Amy shared Priceless by Miranda Silver. Both books are available. Be sure to check Words and Kisses or your local retailer, wherever you get your books. But thank you so much for joining me, and stick around for the rest of July because we have got plenty of steamy sexcerpts heading your way in our upcoming Slick Summer Night Showdown. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. Boobies and Noobies is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow Boobies and Noobies on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Boobies Podcast.